Hello, and welcome to the DC Overlord channel. I am the DC Overlord, and today we are going to be exploring a Superman video game. People say that there is no way you can do a Superman game, but I have the answer. So this concept is called Superman the Last Son. This is a general concept of how I would do a Superman game. Let's start as Clark Kent. So you start out as Clark Kent. The whole story. You start out as Clark Kent. You're investigating a report, and you're working on a journal on an article. You're talking to Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, interacting with them. When you're hearing something going on, and you then transition into Superman. Go to telephone booth or a broom closet or something, and you change into Superman. Then that will activate as you fly out, you activate the flying mode, which you will be a free exploration system where you have a GPS target and a little indication of how far away you are from them. You would hit like R2 to fly faster, or just coast if you really want to. But you will be able to fly to the scene of the crime. And this could be fully fleshed out in a more kind of real-time feeling kind of thing. So you not only would you get indications of your main goal, but you would also kind of hear people like talking, and maybe you would run into someone who's trying to mug someone. So you would have different ways of being able to interact with the world. You would be introduced to a robber as the robber is trying to rob a store, and your mission is your first goal is to make sure that you don't kill this guy. You're just looking to disarm him, and so you get the tutorial of how to use your abilities in order to disarm this robber without killing him. So you don't get to use your heat vision, you just have to subdue him. Turns out that robber is Metallo, and so now the playing ground is even. And so now this is what introduces kind of like the weakness mode of where you actually have a health meter, and this is where you as Superman have a challenge now. So now you're facing someone who is more your level and even has your weakness. So you have to come up with a strategy and method in order to defeat them. You can't just single-handedly kill him. You have to figure out a way to depower him, but also not necessarily kill him, and also make sure to, not die. So there will be kind of multiple systems at play, but you will be fighting a Superman. Now you can use your heat vision. Now you can use your freeze breath and everything. And so this would be kind of the way that you balance things out, is that yes, you have situations where Superman can easily take them down, easily stop them, but then you also have situations that are not as easy to deal with. And the perfect villain to introduce all of this to would be Brainiac. Brainiac would be the perfect villain for this because you could argue that his soldiers and everything, his robots, would be able to stop the Man of Steel. That's kind of the whole point, is that they would be able to be at his level and be able to fight him at a reasonable level to where it would be a challenge. And so they could have ways of weakening Superman, and so you could still have Superman be strong, but against them it's more of an even fight. You would also have Brainiac, who is the actual big bad, who would be difficult to defeat and would need to have a long boss battle, basically. And it could be in multiple stages as well. So you start out with Brainiac being kind of normal, kind of just like an everyday person, and it evolves into like a machine, and then an even bigger machine at the end of the game. There would also be another element introduced into which Brainiac knows a lot more about Krypton and is willing to share that information with Clark, and then that way you were able to kind of learn more about the Kryptonian lore, the Kryptonian heritage, and the whole world that there is. You might even be able to replay Superman's origin, which is really that his planet died and exploded. So you'll be able to kind of use that as a way of having a biosystem. You would also have the Fortress of Solitude, where you would be able to go to and from and be able to explore the library of information that you've collected. You will also get to monitor kind of the activities that happen on Earth. Maybe you have a little bit of a record of your side missions and what you need to do. Villains that are kind of on the loose, and you have the option to kind of go to them. This could also be a way for you to interact with the entire world, not just Metropolis. You could like have certain cities that you can go to. Maybe you can go to Gotham for a second, interact with Batman, that kind of thing. But you would have so Fortress of Solitude would be kind of just the home base, like the Bat Cave, if you will. This is where you're just kind of like just being Kal-El. And then you would have also Lex Luthor being kind of a reoccurring character. I think you would have Lex Luthor be both a villain to Clark as well as Superman. So again, you're going back and forth between Clark and Superman. And as Clark, you're kind of investigating Lex Luthor for something that he's done. Probably a project that he's working on. And you're looking to kind of stop him in the journalist way, but then you're also trying to stop him as Superman. And so you would introduce the dynamic between Lex and Superman, and you would also introduce the element of kryptonite, and that would also put you at an even playing field, and have Superman a little bit more weak as he kind of fights his way through the city, and maybe you progressively increase the difficulty of the game as Superman gets weaker and weaker. You would have the combat system that I would introduce is number one, morality meter. So instead of necessarily a death screen, you would have more of like a morality screen where you do kind of like in Assassin's Creed, where if you kill too many people, you desynchronize, you restart. I feel like this would be a perfect way to kind of implement the no kill rule. So you would have, if you kill someone, and if you go beyond the scope of what you're supposed to do, it's game over. Like, you can't kill anybody unless there's an exception, which there is really no exception, so you really can't kill anybody. And so if you, for example, go up to a random citizen and just decide to kill them, it would be game over, you would have to restart. And you could introduce this as kind of like a punishment. It's like, if you execute someone, then it's game over. So you have to find a way to do it without killing them. You could also introduce a weakness to kryptonite, and also magic, and also things that are as strong as Superman, which introduces the health bar, which makes it so that you do have the capability of dying, or at least having a game over. Maybe you have stakes where you have to rescue Lois Lane, or you have to rescue a firefighter, and if they die, it's game over. That kind of thing. So you introduce a challenge, but not necessarily through combat, but also through other means, like fighting. You would also have a balance between Clark and Superman, so you would have to go between Superman and Clark, and you would be able to change between the two, but you have to do it in a way where it doesn't reveal your secret identity. And I think there's another way you could introduce kind of like the secrecy kind of challenge, where like if you expose the fact that you're Superman, it's game over. And so you would have kind of the element of showing Superman's own struggles, as well as still not depowering him, or at least not depowering him as much as you normally would. I think at some point you would have kind of like, okay, at some point you would kind of approach it as like the Superman animated series style, where like some things hurt, others things don't. Like, yes, his greatest weakness is kryptonite, but there are things that can be as strong as Superman. You could even introduce like apocalyptic technology, which is able to hurt Superman. So there's different ways that you could kind of introduce a challenge without having to depower Superman. You just simply increase the power of the enemies that he's fighting. You would also have an exploration mode, which will allow you to fly out and kind of, well, just see the city kind of thing. You would have like a reasonable sized map. I would put the size of like GTA 5 maybe. And you'll be able to have a flight mode where you can fly quickly, and then you can increase or decrease the size of your the speed that you're going at. And so you could go get there in like 2 seconds, or you could get there in like 5 minutes. It's like you could have that balance of he's flying fast, he's flying slow, he can see things, he can see everything, he can see some things, that kind of thing. You would have X-ray vision acting as detective vision, and then you would also have a zoom mode where you can enhance and zoom and kind of see what is going on. Like maybe you kind of fly by and there's like a robbery going on, so you kind of look to see if you need to intervene, and you do. So then you can go over and stop the robbery. And then you would have side missions introduced through like super hearing, as well as like detective vision. So like you could overhear like, I don't know, Toyman trying to rob a bank, and so then you have to go to the bank and stop him. And then you might have like even a time meter of how long you have to get there in order to not have like a game over, or how to like resolve the situation. Now, not everything should be like timer based, but I think in order to get that challenge across, you would have to introduce some sort of punishment, some sort of you have to do this before you do that kind of thing. And so maybe if you prioritize the wrong things, it might punish you. Kind of some vague ideas of like how you could make a challenge for a Superman game. I think if you want to go the Arkham Asylum route, you have to introduce another element of gameplay. So I think really what is going to be the driving factor is the fact that you have to balance your life between Clark and Superman. Maybe you have some missions that only Clark can do, and you have some missions that only Superman can do, but then you have some missions where both of them can do it. So like either one of them can do it. So for example, you might have like a date night for Clark with Lois, and then so only Clark can do that. Or maybe if Lois knows, then maybe both can do it. I don't know. So you kind of have that dynamic between, you have to balance your life between Clark and Superman. I think being able to like fast travel like is simple. You just fly on over. Like if you don't want to physically fly, you can fast travel and you'll just be there. So I definitely think that would be kind of the approach to take. In terms of the story, you could go a few different directions. I would personally have it be sort of the beginning years of Superman. So you do kind of have he's kind of young and experienced, not as experienced as like a later Superman would be. So you could still argue that he's not as skilled, he's still learning, he's still figuring out how to be both Clark and Superman at the same time. And you would be able to kind of introduce new villains as well, like Livewire and like Volcana and some others, maybe Granny Goodness even, maybe a little bit of Darkseid here and there. It depends on the direction that you would want to go. But basically the main idea would be to introduce villains that are just as powerful as Superman, if not more powerful. So it would be, you would have those really tight boss battles. And honestly, I would go with the approach of sort of a Hogwarts Legacy approach, where yes, spells can be powerful. Spells can do like instant damage. But the thing is, you still have the morality meter to think about. So you can't just kill them. So you can't just use your heat vision all of the time. You would actually have to learn to not use it as frequently and not just go killing people. Or if you do kill people, it can introduce some fun scenarios where people are commenting, oh my gosh, this evil Superman, or oh my gosh, Superman has gone rogue, oh my gosh, Superman is killing everybody, and kind of like commenting on that. I think honestly going the Assassin's Creed route and how you would get punished if you act out of character for Superman is kind of the way to do it without making him weak. You can still have the weakness to Superman to Kryptonite, but like for like a battle against Lex Luthor, maybe there is some sort of hostage situation where you can't just kill Lex. Maybe there's like a bomb threat or something. So you would have to introduce some elements of gameplay in order to resolve that. The other kind of idea would be to not necessarily make it an open world RPG. That's another way where you can actually have a story about Superman, a video game about Superman, but not necessarily making it the open world RPG. You could go something more like a virtual novel, or you go more like a Telltale game, for example. You could go that direction instead of doing it actually like the Arkham styles. Of course, the Arkham style would be more favorable, but it would kind of be understandable if you don't want to go that direction. If you want to show Superman in a different light, in a different kind of platform. And even though I would love like a Superman Arkham game, I think that it's okay to find like the balance between both worlds. I think people would be a little bit understanding if it's not everything, but at the same time, of course, it'd be more impressive if you were able to include kind of every aspect of the game. And I think doing a story revolving around Brainiac would be the thing that makes the most sense. You could also still have the different villains kind of present in Metropolis while still having this challenge for Superman. But anyways, those are kind of just my ideas for how I would do a Superman game. I think it definitely is something that would have to be kind of fully drawn out, fully thought out. And maybe it's not a long game. It doesn't necessarily have to be a long story. I think you could just make it like a 12 to 14 hour long main story and then have everything else be like side mission and completion. Because at that point, you have a satisfying length of a story and you have the ability to kind of show off what Superman can do. Maybe you introduce DLC down the line, like an Apocalypse DLC, a Justice League DLC, that kind of thing, as to where you would be able to kind of expand the world of Superman without sacrificing his story, without sacrificing his powers. You could even introduce kind of a Justice League Superman. So maybe you introduce kind of the multiverse where your main enemy is you. That could also be an interesting route to go in terms of making it more balanced and more fun. I think you should have moments where Superman is overpowered, where Superman can solve it in just 2 seconds, and maybe it's kind of like up to the player, where like you could draw this out, or you could just end it now, and maybe the player would have kind of the decision of how they want to handle each situation, whether they want to do it quickly or whether they want to draw it out. I feel like being able to do that would also kind of be able to balance, okay, Superman's kind of like holding back right now, or Superman isn't, he's going full strength against this person. I think having kind of be choices matter, choice based, maybe not that, but kind of just like a linear story where the small things, it's like there's like a journey along the way kind of thing. It's not really going to impact the overall story. It's kind of be more of like a one and done story. But I think that's absolutely fine to do if you understand the parameters that you're working with. But that's me. That's how I would do a Superman video game. What do you guys think? Do you think a Superman video game is viable? Comment down below. What would you want to see in a Superman game? Comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because I post all things DC content related, both doing pitches and doing DC news and doing these shorts and everything else in between. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.